Good evening, guys. Welcome to tonight's episode of EFL Championship Preview Show. I'm joined by fellow friend, Sky Blue Fan TV and fellow TAP member, Charlie Burton. How are you, Charlie?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. So basically today, guys, we're going to go through the championship results. The championship games. I can't go through results if they've not already played. And the big one tonight, Coventry versus Birmingham. Charlie's going to give us some more information on that one, as Charlie is an avid Coventry City fan. So, Charlie, tonight's game, quite a big one, isn't it?
It is indeed, yeah. Obviously, I'm sure most football fans, whether you follow the Championship or not, will be well aware of the fact that obviously Birmingham and Coventry City play at the same ground. Obviously, Coventry City sharing Birmingham's ground. We try not to really touch on that too much on our fans channel, just because, as I'm sure you can all imagine, most of the Sky Blues fans are sick to death hearing about it. But yeah, it is not even just for that, just because they're both teams that are, without being disrespectful to either side, they're both teams that are probably going to be near the bottom end of the table come the end of the season. And it's one of those games where both sides really are looking to win, or at least not lose it, if you see what I mean.
So Coventry are in their first season back in the Championship. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, first season since the 2010-2011 campaign.
Gosh,
it's been a long time coming.
That was you guys played at the Rico back then, didn't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, the Rico technically is still our ground, sort of on paper, but actually we've not played at the Rico consistently for quite a while. We had a spell at Northampton, at Six Hills Air Stadium a few seasons back, and then we were at Birmingham Stadium last season, and obviously this season as well. So yeah, it's been a bit of a turbulent time, but luckily we've been able to still pull the results out on the pitch, which is kind of the main thing, I guess.
How is that being a fan of a club that has to travel even further to home games, not just away games?
Yeah.
How is that being a fan?
So for me, a lot of Coventry fans would find this definitely controversial, but I went to Six Hills. Obviously, that's in that's in Northampton. So that was strange because it's nowhere near Coventry. It's a much smaller ground than the Rico. However, the kind of saving grace about that situation was the fact that Coventry had a really, really strong team that season that we played at Six Hills, and they also did pretty well in the league. Going to Birmingham, we've got to give credit to Birmingham as a club. They've been absolutely amazing to Coventry, both to the fans and to the players, in terms of hosting us and that kind of thing. But yeah, obviously it is a bit, it's depressing not playing in your city, in your own ground. But as fans, there's not a lot we can do at the moment right now. So we're just kind of doing what we can and trying to back the boys in ways that we can, really.
Brilliant. So you go in tonight's game 21st in the league.
Yeah.
How many games have you guys played now?
We have.
I did have it jotted down, but
let me just double check, because I know in total how many we played, but actually in the league we have played 11 games. So yeah, it's sort of, by this point in the season, sort of 10, 11 games in, obviously you're starting to get more of an idea about how teams are going to perform in the season. Obviously, still a long way to go. But yeah, so Cov have made, I'd say, it's not an unsurprising start that we're in 21st. Obviously, we have just come up from League One, so we've still got a lot of the same players that were in that League One squad. So as I said at the start, we're kind of expecting to be there or thereabouts. I think realistically, as long as we can stay in that league and build for next season, that's the main goal, at least for me anyway. I know a lot of the lads that I work with on the channel also agree that that's got to be the main focus. And Birmingham, obviously, they've been a Championship team consistently for a while, had a bit of a spell in the Premier League a few years ago, but equally, having my problems there. Equally, Birmingham are also a team that actually, on the whole, they have got a decent side. They've got players of good pedigree. They've got a decent manager as well. So they would be looking to sort of be mid-table, upper echelons of the table. And I think if they don't achieve that, they'll be a bit frustrated, to be honest.
This is one fixture I have looked forward to. Like I said to you earlier, this is definitely one thing I wanted to cover today. But it's one of those standout fixtures for me. I've not really paid attention to the Championship since Leicester got promoted, being a Leicester fan.
Yeah.
But I do like to keep tabs on it every now and again, because I like watching where Derby are, Forest. I mean, even Coventry. I've got family members who are Coventry City fans. My girlfriend is a Coventry City fan.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's always quite interesting to figure out where they are and how they're doing. And I'm happy that they're in the Championship now. And I do hope they can get the result over Birmingham today. I really do.
Yeah.
How do you think the game's going to go?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Birmingham have got some really good players. I mean, the key players that we pinpointed on our preview last night over on the channel was Mikel San Jose, who's a sort of a defender or a deep play midfielder. They signed him from Bilbao on a free transfer. I'm presuming that was a Spanish connection from Carranca, their new manager. Obviously, he's previously been at Middlesbrough and Nottingham Forest. And they've also got Ivan Sanchez, who's got a decent amount of experience. He played for Elche in Spain last season. So they're the two kind of main players that we're looking at that could potentially affect the game both ends of the field.
Okay, brilliant. Now, in terms of predictions, obviously I can imagine you're going to go for a Cov win, but where do you see the game ending up, or how do you see the game happening?
So Coventry, unfortunately, have got a fair few key players out with injuries and various other reasons. Obviously, football as a whole is a bit turbulent at the moment. But one area that Cov are particularly impacted at the moment is in defence. We've not been great defensively this season anyway. So when you factor in that we have got a few key men out tonight, I suspect that we will concede at least a goal or two maybe. But equally, Birmingham have also shipped quite a lot of goals so far this season. So I predict it'd be a high-scoring game, but I feel going forward, we've probably got a little bit more than Birmingham. So I'm going to go for a 2-1 Cov victory.
2-1 Cov victory. Okay,
obviously, that's with rose-tinted sky blue glasses on. But I expect to see goals.
Perfect. I was predicting possibly a draw or a late winner. I mean, I used to back Coventry all the time on my accumulators and all this, but they always used to let me down at the end. So it's one of those ones where I won't be taking a punt on this game myself. But guys, if you're out there, you're putting a punt. Guys, if you're out there and you're watching, how do you guys see the game? Do you know? Are you a Cov fan? Are you a Birmingham fan? Are you neutral? How do you see tonight's game? It's a big one at St Andrews. I'm calling it the Battle of the Blues, I believe. Sky Blues versus the Blues.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If I was to give one tip to people that are watching, or a bit of advice on betting, the main tip I'd give you, it would be so Lukas Jukovic, playing up top for Birmingham, has been there quite a few seasons. He's a former Sky Blues player, and we are notorious for conceding goals that are scored by our former players. So if you're going to back someone to score, Lukas Jukovic is your man.
There you go, guys. You've heard it here first, only on tap. So yeah, get that one in your accumulators, guys. Right, so we've spoke about the Cov and Birmingham game. The next fixture we've got, obviously tomorrow daytime, Bournemouth and Reading. Bournemouth sit fourth, while Reading lead the way. How do you suspect this one's going to go, Charlie?
Yeah, see, I think that is a big game. Obviously, they're both two teams that are looking to sort of push higher up. Reading have been down in the Championship for a while and probably are looking to get back up to the top flight, having not been there for a while. But equally, Bournemouth have got a very strong side. Obviously, I know in the summer they lost Callum Wilson, but they've still on paper got a very strong team. So I can imagine that being an important game for both sides in terms of the outcome come the end of the season. I know obviously it's still very early, but I on paper see Bournemouth probably winning that game. But again, it's a very close one to call. Yeah,
it's always a close one to call when when they're both in the top four. Is definitely. I mean, I'd probably have Bournemouth to win just on the basis of they're new to the Championship. They got relegated from the Premier League last year, and you'd sort of expect them to sort of keep that momentum going from the Premier League, and take it into the Championship. But at the same time as well, they've not been used to Championship football, and as we all know, the Championship As much as we praise the Premier League for being the best league in the world, the Championship is up there as one of the hardest to get out of.
Yeah, oh no, yeah, definitely. It's a very competitive league all throughout. Even in the little different sort of sub leagues, if you like, sort of there's always a big battle at the bottom of the table for Championship. There's never really, bar maybe a few seasons, a clear distinctive winner or someone that's done absolutely pants down at the bottom. It's always kind of a very closely fought team, and bottom can beat top and top can beat bottom any week.
Yeah. I mean, apart from obviously that time there, is it Leicester absolutely sailed it? But we won't.
I knew you'd bring that up. It was only a matter of time.
We won't go into that. For those people that are watching, I've known Charlie ever since we were little boys, and this is banter we've had for years. He used to get on to me about being a Leicester fan, and I used to get on to him about being a Cov fan. Not so much now, though.
Yeah, well,
not so much now, though, is it?
No, there was only ever really, I think, one season where I could actually sort of gloat to you about Leicester being in League One and Cov being in the Championship. Apart from that, it's been awful.
It didn't last long. It didn't last long. I mean, to be fair, one of my probably favourite memories at Cov was probably being sat in the Coventry City end at the Rico when we played you guys. I think it might have been 2009 to 10, and you guys took the early lead. And I remember Paul Gallagher. The keeper's come out. He's lobbed it straight over the keeper. The ball's not even in the goal yet, and I'm sat in the, you know where the is it the corporate seating?
Yeah.
And the ball's hovering in the air. It's slow mo, and I'm just sat there. Yeah. All the Cov fans looking around at me. I got told I was an omen and never allowed back in the Rico.
That's risky behaviour. That is, yeah. I'm gonna say
risky behaviour, but that's how we roll. Yeah. Literally.
Yeah.
So moving on, Preston and Sheffield Wednesday. Now you're gonna have to give me some more insight on these two teams, because the last time I checked, Sheffield Wednesday weren't doing too bad, and now I checked this season, and they're at the bottom of they're second from bottom.
Yeah,
what's going on there?
It's one of them where, like you said at the start, they played pretty well. They picked a few decent results, first few games, sort of 5-6 games. And then since then, really, they've kind of been in free fall a little bit. I've only watched them a couple of times this season. And to be fair, they do play decent football. It's not just, they don't just sort of hoof it forward and hope for the best. But to be honest, I don't really know why they've kind of gone into that free fall. But I don't know whether there's problems in the dressing room or what's going on. But yeah, they really have just sort of lost all form completely.
Well, let's hope they can get back up to fellow counterparts over on Bramall Lane.
Yeah, and to be honest, I just based on their poor form so far, recently at least, I can see Preston nicking that really, because it's just going to be difficult for Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, obviously you could argue they've got the incentive of having to turn that bad form around, but equally I can see them getting beaten by Preston, to be honest.
Right, we'll jot that one down. So my prediction would probably be, I mean, I can't really put my predictions, to be honest, because obviously, like I said earlier, I don't know too much about the Championship this season. I mean, I would like Sheffield Wednesday to win. I think they've got a great team, great fan base. But we'll see how that one pans out. I might go for the draw. Yeah. The lads at TAP will know I'm quite peculiar to a draw. I do love me draws. QPR, Watford. Sorry, mate, carry on.
No, sorry. I was just going to say a draw is always a safe bet in the Championship, because, as we were saying earlier, games are always closely fought. There's not very often games in the Championship where one team steamrolls another team. So, yeah, it's not a bad bet, I don't think. So, yeah, Watford, QPR. See, that's an interesting one, because QPR have always had a decent side for the Championship, and I think against a lot of sides in the Championship, you'd back QPR, or you'd at least back them to score a decent amount of goals, because going forward they are pretty strong. However, you then look at Watford's squad, and it's pretty incredible. I mean, I know obviously Championship's only second division, but it's sorry, again, sort of headset problem. So you'd look at Watford's team on paper, and you go, it's just difficult to know how any team can really compete against Watford, just based on the fact that how good their squad is. To be honest, they've got not only have they got a lot of decent flair players, but they've also got players that have got experience at that level as well. So I'd back Watford every day to win that one.
100%. I mean, on paper for me, that one's Watford all day.
Yeah.
I mean, the way Ben Foster's playing as well. I mean, I don't know whether you've seen his YouTube channel that he got in trouble by the EFL from.
Yes, I saw some of that on Twitter. It's a bit of an interesting one because I think I don't know. He's just trying to engage with the fans, I think, during lockdown, isn't it? But obviously they've got rules that they've got to follow and stuff. Yeah,
it's a very good point. I mean, for those who are watching that don't know, Ben Foster, the Watford keeper, he has been, I wouldn't say told, he's been warned by the EFL because he's basically created a channel where he's showing his goalkeeping from inside the stadium to give the fans sort of that view, the view they're missing. But apparently he's under fire for that. So fingers crossed he doesn't get into too much trouble for that and he doesn't have to remove them all, because I've watched a couple of them and
I don't know.
they're really entertaining.
You can see where the EFL are coming from, but equally I just think at the moment fans really, really miss going to the games. And that's also a different perspective that you don't normally see, is seeing a goalkeeper's view from the game and the action through his eyes. And I really don't think there's anything wrong with it, but obviously that's just my opinion. So, I can kind of see why they're annoyed, but equally I think it's just let it slide.
Andy says he did it to watch his movement so he can improve. That's quite a good point, actually. I mean, I play wheelchair basketball and I absolutely loved it when our games were recorded, so I could go back and watch. And I was constantly, when I wasn't on the court, I was constantly watching when I was on the court, because that's the best way to improve.
Yeah, that does make sense.
In my opinion. So we've spoke about the QPR Watford game and we've said Watford win, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
What I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to go through all the fixtures and we'll give our score predictions then.
Okay, yeah.
So next is Stoke and Huddersfield. Now I'd rate. Now this one's a tough one, actually. They're both used to be in the Premier League. They're both quite comfortable in the Championship. I reckon this one can go either way. Yeah, and I am going to sit on the fence there, Martin.
I'd agree. I feel like obviously both teams have still got players of Premier League quality. At least some of their players are. Obviously, Huddersfield had a brief spell in the Premier League, and Stoke were there for quite a while, and have still got some of those players that are still in their squad now. Obviously, they've been out of the Premier League for a little bit now. But yeah, I think that's one of those where you can see it going either way, really. They've both had okay starts to the season. Neither of them have kind of set it on fire. I don't really think anyone expected that massively from them. So if I was to call it, I'd probably say this looks like it's got a bit of a draw written all over it.
Depends on, I mean, all I'm thinking of, it depends on the weather. Yeah. As long as it's not raining, I think Huddersfield might be in with a chance.
True. Raining or windy, yeah.
That's it. Right, moving on. We've got Barnsley and Nottingham Forest.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
again that one's probably about the same, isn't it? They're both evenly matched teams. I mean, Forest are battling at the bottom. I think they've just got a couple of good results, didn't they? They've just
they beat.
They replaced their manager as well.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, that's true. They beat us last time out, which it's obviously annoying for us. But yeah, that's a bit of a surprising one. They've not started too well. They have got a decent enough side, so you'd expect them to do a little bit better than they have been so far. But yeah, as you said at the start there, Barnsley side have really struggled so far. But yeah, I think they're both sides that need a result and could do with at least building some momentum as we sort of go towards the festive period and all those backlog of games, especially this season as well. So yeah, I can see that being a hard fought game. But again, that wouldn't surprise me if Forest were able to get a result because Barnsley have been pretty poor so far.
I mean, it all depends on the day, doesn't it? I mean, with Forest, I mean, their away record isn't that great. But like you said, they're fighting fit and they're ready for it.
Yeah, I think it's true. The away form isn't great, but then overall, you look at Barnsley. They've kind of been down at the bottom of the Championship whenever they've been there for a while, and actually, you'd expect Forest with the quality they've got, despite the sort of poor start, to, if they turn up on the day, to probably get a result against Barnsley.
If there's any Forest fans, or if there's any Championship supporting team, Championship team supporting members who are watching, give us your views, give us your predictions, which team you support. Be great to find out, and we'd love to know. I personally don't like betting on Forest, so I'm just gonna straight out say Barnsley win.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But that's just me being a biased Leicester fan.
Yep, can't blame you there.
Middlesbrough and Norwich City. Now this, I reckon, has the potential to be game of the week.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, they're both two solid sides, and are both capable of playing really well, playing good football, especially Norwich. Obviously, a lot of people, even that don't follow the Championship, will be aware of the kind of football that Norwich do try and play most games. Sometimes they can be a little bit more sort of pragmatic and just try and get the job done a bit more simply. But normally they try and play nice football.
That's it. I mean, after watching them in the Premier League, I think, to be honest, if they'd have started a little bit earlier and got the backsides in gear, I reckon they might have saved themselves, to be honest.
I think that's probably fair.
When they played, I mean, their gameplay was outstanding. I mean, if you go back to that first game of the Premier League season last year against Liverpool, what a game! And it's like Leeds this year.
It is.
If you're putting that much pressure on a team like Liverpool, you should be staying in the Premier League. But obviously the season happened the way it did, and it just wasn't meant to be. So unfortunately, they're back there, but they are sitting third. So they're not doing too bad. They're still up there. But against Middlesbrough, I mean, Middlesbrough are one of those teams, aren't they? I always call them the bogey team, because you have them on the acca, and they're always the team to sort of make it come in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think they are one of those teams that, even though they don't necessarily consistently perform the way that they sometimes can do, obviously they can play really good football. They're a team that they've always got a chance of winning and pulling out a result. So I wouldn't back against them. However, with them playing such a good team like Norwich, I'd say Norwich are probably one of the strongest teams in the Championship this season, bar obviously Watford. So I would have to probably, for that game, back Norwich, but only just though. It's not by a massive margin.
Brilliant. Now I've got a very interesting question. Obviously, we just spoke about Forest, but Andrew, one of our admins, he says, "What's your thoughts on what's going wrong at Forest and Derby? Obviously, as a Cov fan, you've seen your club go through horrendous times, but can you see this being the same for Forest or Derby?"
Yeah, see, that's a difficult one, because obviously I won't bore you guys with all the ins and outs of the cost stuff, because please
do.
Well,
please do.
Basically, Cov have had a dispute for a long time. The owners of Cov and the council and then the club itself have been they've been squabbling a lot recently over the last probably 5-6 years, maybe even more. It's kind of all a bit of a blur, to be honest. And that's like I said earlier at the start of the call. It's kind of led to us having to ground share and sort of be displaced from our home, the Rico. And honestly, it's awful seeing any club go through that kind of scenario. So you'd really hope that no club, either Forest or Derby or whoever it is, has to go through that. But I think it comes down to, and I really don't like sense, but it comes down to all the money being at the top of football. And when I say the top, people say, well, the Championship is the top of football in the grand scheme of things. But actually, when you look at the Premier League, a lot of the clubs there have so much money pumped into them from all different avenues. And actually, a lot of that causes a big problem lower down the pyramid. And actually, I feel like if clubs were protected a little bit more by bigger teams, this kind of thing wouldn't happen. So to answer your question, unfortunately, you can see it happening to other clubs, and it's not just a thing that will happen to Carve. We've seen it at Blackpool, we've seen the same similar kind of thing at Wigan, lots of different teams. I mean, Bury's the most recent one to all go a bit wrong. Yeah. And so, unfortunately, I don't think any club, bar the elite clubs, if you see what I'm saying, are elite from that happening, or sorry, immune from that happening. Even if they're in the Premier League, I think some clubs are vulnerable to that happening at any point, really.
It's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. All we can do is hope that it doesn't happen to these teams, and hope that we, the money can get evenly spread around. Because like you say, it's at the lower leagues, and like Jack, our grassroots correspondent. That's where the core of football is. That's where it all stems from. If you've not got it at grassroots level, it doesn't work at the top.
So I during obviously the first lockdown, not this most recent one, but lockdown one, if you like, when obviously you weren't allowed to go to watch elite football, I was going to watch Hinckley AFC, who are my local team, local non-league team. Now they sit at the bottom of non-league football, which for those that don't know much about non-league football is, so if the Premier League's tier 1, Hinckley would be in tier 10, so step 6 of non-league football. So that's as low as you can go. And to be honest, mate, like the amount of people that were getting there is incredible. And I'm more likely to go back to Hinckley if I haven't got a game or I can't get to a game for whatever reason, to go and watch it, because it's such a good atmosphere, and it's such a lovely place to be on a Saturday. And it gets you away from the kind of elitist of high level football.
Yeah, spot on. I mean, I used to enjoy. Is it not Shepshed Dynamo? Quorn, I believe it is. Just before you get into Loughborough, there's a little stadium on the left hand side.
Oh yeah,
been to one or two games.
Yeah. So there's a few teams.
I think it is Quorn.
There. Yeah, Quorn play there. Leicester City women play there. And also Loughborough Uni have played there in the past, although they've got their own facility now, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, in overall, I think non-league is a good thing, but I think also, obviously, money needs to be invested in grassroots football, but it also works all the way up as well to prevent things like Coventry, Blackpool, Wigan, Bury, things like that happening. Because it's not fair that happens. I mean, if we take the German model, for example, the model that they use in Germany for ownership of clubs. Now, forget Hoffenheim and RB Leipzig because they're different. But the majority of even the big elite clubs in Germany, so your Bayerns, Borussia Dortmunds, they're all 50% fan-owned at least. So that means that no dodgy owner with loads of money can come in and ransack the club and take it over without the fans being there. And I think that is a very good way of running a football club, because it means that ultimately the people that care about the club the most and have the best interests consistently are the ones that are actually in charge of running the club.
Fantastic point, mate. I love that. It's spot on. You're not wrong at all. That's exactly how it should be done. I mean, if you look at, I won't speak about them too much, but Leicester City, their owner Vishai, and Top. We were very lucky to get owners that cared about the fans and the community as well as just the team. And I think that's what a lot of owners lack when they come in and they buy a new team. It's they're all they're bothered about is getting in and actually owning a club. Just to say they can own a team, do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be like that. It should always be about the fans.
When you look at Sisu, I don't want to go into too much of this because it's like, if there's any COD fans listening, it's just like it's just not a positive thing to be talking about. But our owner, Sisu, the main front woman, she's an American woman. She's sort of probably late 50s, early 60s. She doesn't live in the UK. She lives out in America, and she's got no interest in football. So at this point, you're thinking, why on earth do you own a football club? It's a bit like the guy, I forget his name off the top of my head, who owned Bury, still does actually on paper own them. He openly admitted, I think it was on TalkSport or somewhere similar, that he's got no interest in football. So why would you go and own a football club if you're not bothered about it? It just
very
seems
good point.
crazy to me.
It is a very good point, and it isn't fair on the fans that spend hours on end, traveling to games and supporting their team. Do you know what I mean? The amount of money that goes into supporting a team as well. But we'll move on.
Yeah.
Thank you for that question, though, Andy. That was a fantastic question, and thank you for your answer as well, Charlie. Really enlightened me. Put it that way. So we did Middlesbrough and Norwich City, didn't we? So now we move on to Millwall and Cardiff City. Now, probably a good job the fans aren't there for this one, because that one would be
it goes without saying the doors kicked off
for the riot,
Millwall, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, one of my favourite memories from watching Championship football was going down to Ninian Park. You know what I mean? The atmosphere there was absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, I think there's always a good atmosphere there, because obviously they are a very, very well supported team, and you wouldn't want to sort of bet against them, because of the atmosphere. However, when you consider that obviously no fans are there, that's kind of, for me, makes a big difference.
I mean, I know what I'd be thinking if I was a football player on that coach driving into Millwall.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Do we have to? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's just be thankful that I can't kick a ball.
Well, me and you both, mate.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. So I'm not the only Mr. Wheels on this show. Charlie is also a fellow wheeled companion.
I am a fellow blue badge holder, fellow benefits.
There we go. That's the one, mate. Yeah, don't tell them that. So moving on. Oh wait, no, we've not actually spoke about that game yet. So yeah, Millwall, Cardiff City. I kind of fancied Cardiff for this one. I know they sit lower than them in the league, but I fancy Cardiff for this one.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think again it's one of those where both teams have been fairly decent this season. Again, neither of them have kind of massively kicked on so far, first sort of 10, 11 games. But you'd expect both those sides to be sort of in and around it come the end of the season. I think I'd probably back Cardiff. I'd say probably on paper they've got a slightly better side, but again, there's not too much between them. They're both two teams that like to play, especially Millwall, obviously pretty physical football, but equally they've both got quality all over the pitch. So yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I think Cardiff may just edge it, but it also wouldn't surprise me if it was to be a draw with a few goals in it, to be honest.
Brilliant. Luton versus Blackburn Rovers. Now this one I don't know too much about. I've not really followed both of these teams for a number of years now. But I'm hoping that you can give me some insight on the game scheduled for tomorrow. Who do you fancy for this one?
Yeah, so that's a bit more of a tough one to call. They're both teams that obviously Blackburn have had spells in League One recently, as have Luton. But we all know Luton. So Blackburn are a team that have in the past been in the Premier League for a while and have always historically kind of done well in the Championship when they've been there. But obviously, of late, they've not kind of been at the same level they have been probably in the last decade or so. So I can see this being a kind of closer than it maybe would have been a few seasons gone by. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Is it a Blackburn, isn't it?
It's at Luton.
Oh, it's at Luton. It's at Luton. Okay. No, so Luton is a bit of a obviously when fans are there, it's a bit of a strange old ground to go to. I don't know whether any of your guys watching this have been to Luton before, but you basically have to walk through pretty much like someone's back garden, someone's house to get there into the stadium.
I was just thinking about this. It'd be quite interesting to know, actually. Obviously you're not allowed fans in the grounds, and I'm pretty sure Luton's one of those stadiums where you can pretty much see from their houses, can't you? If they was upstairs in their back garden or anything like that, looking out the window, they can see the game.
Yeah, it is a weird one. It's like it's got that sort of where obviously we're talking about grassroots football. It's got that sort of non-league feel to it. But Luton are doing pretty well so far this season. To be fair, they're touching the playoffs, which is probably. I mean, they did really well last season. and they're lucky not to do slightly better. But I can see with it being at Luton as well, and considering their form, I can probably see Luton nicking this because they have got the momentum, and obviously with it being at home. But equally, Blackburn, they're probably 2 or 3 places below Luton off the top of my head, but they've not done bad either, to be fair. So but I think overall on balance, I'd probably go for a Luton win.
Andy's asking if they could cancel each other out. That's a possibility. We'll tune in tomorrow and we'll find out. We'll get back to the results. Obviously, we've still got 3 more games to go through, but obviously once the games have played, tune into Ryan's roundup on, I believe it's now on Monday evening, for all your roundup of all the scores from the weekend. Nice little plug there for you, Ryan. Also, guys, as well, remember, in about 25 minutes, we've got Mitch's debate show, where we're going to find out if it's time for Southgate to go, whether Bielsa's bubble has burst, and we'll be hearing more about Liverpool versus Leicester tomorrow. Or is it Sunday? I can't remember when it is. But yeah, Sunday, the weekend. I thought it might have been. I should have known this as a Leicester fan. So I slapped myself on the wrist for that one. Right, so yeah, moving on. Bristol City versus Derby County. And I'm not even going to... do we even need to talk about that one? I think this one's... then again, actually, Derby County have obviously just got rid of their manager. Wayne Rooney's taken over. So it'd be interesting if they can get any points and bounce back off the bottom of the league. It'd be interesting to find out Marcus, our tap admin, his views, as he is a Ram. But Bristol City for me all day. I just don't rate Derby this year. Yeah,
I'm sure, as you say, your admin can probably shed more light on this than I probably can with him being a Derby fan. But yeah, I think it's a strange one from Derby. Obviously, they've not clicked at all. They're right at the foot of the table, and obviously they've got Rooney in charge. Obviously, he's a legend. He knows lots about football, the ins and outs of the game. Sorry, I don't know why my mic keeps doing that. So you'd expect that they probably would pick up points kind of to start off with under Rooney, just because of that new manager factor. But equally, you've got to say that he's not got the managerial experience, having obviously this been his first job. I believe he did a little bit of coaching over in the USA at his time at DC United. But again, he wasn't the manager as such. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think as one of your viewers has commented, you can see them using that first manager trick to kind of get a win maybe. But yeah, as you say, I think against Bristol City, it probably is unlikely, even with that considered. Yeah, because they're up there fighting at the top of the table at the moment, aren't they? Fighting for that playoff spot. I say fighting for a playoff spot. I can't really talk like that 11 games in. So yeah, we're both going Bristol City on that one. I personally don't feel Rooney is ready for managerial career just yet. Yeah, I'd agree. While he's still playing, I'd love him to. I absolutely love him as a player and all this, but I just don't feel that he's ready for that sort of level. We seen Frank Lampard at Derby County. Was it last year? Or, no, the season before. Season before, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and he didn't do too bad, but he had time to focus on the team around him. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't playing. Whereas Rooney is, unless he's going to take a step back from his playing, I don't see it working, because at the same time, he can take a step back from him playing, but are they going to be the same team without him on the pitch? I don't think they will.
I think that's a very valid point. I think obviously, even though he's not scoring a hat-trick every game, I think it's important not to underestimate the amount of effect he'll have on the pitch when he's a player, because obviously he can kind of micromanage the other players on the pitch. But obviously when you're a manager, you can kind of do that from the touchline, but I don't necessarily think it's quite in the same way as you can when you're actually playing in the team yourself.
That's it. Spot on. So we're going Bristol for that one, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say so, mate, yeah.
Right. Swansea, Rotherham.
Yeah, see, I've got to be not careful what I say here, but I'm quite good friends with Paul Warren, the Rotherham manager.
Oh, okay.
So I always like to try and back Rotherham, which can sometimes be a bit of a risky one because they've not always necessarily performed as well as I might have hoped. So yeah, if I'm being unbiased, I'd say probably Swansea. On paper, they've got a strong squad. Also, just a little bit of an insight into Rotherham compared to other teams in that division. They have got a much, 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 much smaller transfer budget than any other team in the Championship.
Yeah, because they've recently just moved to their own stadium, haven't they? The new stadium, the New York Stadium.
Yeah, it's a lovely stadium. Yeah, I think they've been there about 3 or 4 seasons. But there was a time a couple of 2 or 3 seasons ago when Rotherham were in the Championship and also Newcastle in the Championship, and basically I can't remember the name, but the Rotherham midfielder, like man-marked John Joe Shelby, literally just stuck to him like glue the whole game and just focused on blocking him, basically. He was more like an NFL blocker than an actual centre midfielder in football. And John Joe Shelby turned to Paul Warren, the Rotherham manager, at half-time and went, "Oh, like that's a disgrace to play, disgraceful way to play football. It's no way to set a team up." And their manager replied, "Well, that's what we've got to do to win." And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's basically a load of crap. I'm worth more than your whole team put together." So it gives you a bit of an insight into what they're up against in the Championship in terms of budgets from other sides.
Definitely. And the last game that we have this weekend is Wickham versus Brentford.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, Wickham haven't had a great start to the Championship football. You know, it's their first season. Brentford, however, I was expecting them to do a lot better than they have, and they've sort of lost their momentum from last season.
Yeah, they've lost some key players. I think that's a important point to make. They obviously did very, very well last season and were unlucky to go up. And also, just a side point, if there's any sort of long distance fans that travel ridiculous lengths to go to games, I've got a friend who lives in Arbroath, which is at the top of Scotland, who travels down to watch Brentford home and away every Saturday.
Wow.
So Brentford obviously have lost some of their key lads, which, as you can expect when you've had a decent season in the Championship, you're going to get players that want to pick off. Teams that want to pick off your key players, which has happened to Brentford. However, they've still got a pretty solid team, and I'd expect them to maybe not hit the heights they hit last season just because of losing the players. But I'd expect them to maybe pick up a little bit more than they have done so far this season. In terms of the game against Wickham tomorrow, I would probably expect a result for Brentford and see them getting the 3 points there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think it's gonna take Wickham a while, to be honest, to get used to that. You know, the level of football being played in the Championship.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And, you know, they had a fantastic season last season, but I mean, it'd be quite interesting to figure out to get your views on who's gonna go up, who's gonna go down, and who's gonna get playoffs. So that's what I'm going to ask you first. So, which 2 teams do you think are going up for definite?
I think, well, to start with, you've got to say Norwich. Purely, not Norwich, and I would say, I'd say Norwich and Watford are the 2 ones that if I was a betting man, I would have to say either one of those 2 are a pretty safe bet, purely because of the quality that both teams have got. The only thing I would say which might work against Watford more than it would work against Norwich is obviously the fact that Watford haven't been in that league for a fair few seasons now. And so probably they might take a little bit of time to adapt, but we've not really seen that so far. I mean, they've kind of hit the ground running across the board, and they have got, as I said earlier, a pretty great team on paper. So I'd back those 2 to go up, definitely. And then probably you're looking through the playoffs. I mean, Reading have made a good start, so I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the top flight come the end of the season. However, you've also got to look at Bournemouth as well. because obviously they came down last season. I know that they're probably 3 boring options because they're the teams that got relegated last season. But equally, I think they look like the teams that are probably a bit of a cut above the other teams around there.
Yeah. Teams for relegation. Now,
relegation.
it's going to be a tough one for you. I mean, your team's currently battling at the bottom. I mean, we are early in the season. And we are praying, obviously, that Coventry can survive. I mean, it's the first season back in the Championship. It'd be brilliant for that team. Be brilliant for the club in general. But yeah, who's the 3? Oh no, it's 4 that get relegated from the Championship,
4
isn't
go
it?
down. Yeah.
Which are the 4 that you're predicting to go down?
Well, I didn't think I'd be saying this at the start of the season if someone would have asked me the same question, but you've got to say Derby, just based on how badly they've been playing at the start, but then obviously you've got to come back to the point you made a little bit earlier, and you would probably expect them to turn stuff around a little bit, whether that's under Rooney or whoever it is in the future. But equally, they have started very poorly. So I think based on that, you've got to look at Derby. But I wouldn't say that the teams to go down are anywhere near as nailed as I think the teams to go up are, because there are lots of different teams, and obviously you've got the extra space to go down that could add all sorts of things into the mix. I think another one to look at is probably Wickham, because they haven't got that Championship experience. As much as it pains me to say it, I think Cov will be in the mix to go down. Personally, this maybe come across as biased. I don't think we'll go down just because we have got a few quality players that I feel like have got the experience and the quality and the drive to kind of keep us out there. But equally, I wouldn't be shocked if I saw us go down. But yeah, so I think probably Derby and Wickham are the 2 nailed on that I'd go for. I don't know what you think about those 2 as a start.
I mean, yeah, Derby, Wickham, 100%. Cov, I think it's going to be a tough one. I think they're going to be battling it out at the end. That race against time to try and save yourself, sort of thing. But the other teams I'd suggest would probably be, I'm looking at it now, possibly Rotherham, and possibly, I mean, it'd be really interesting. And being a Leicester fan, people will probably think I'm going to be way too biased and go against these teams. But I'd actually be really sad seeing Derby and Forest relegated to League One. For 2 giant teams, and I say giant because yes, that's what they are. Of their level and their history. To see them in League One, that would be a very, very sad day for football, indeed. But like Leicester, you can bounce straight back up from that league. Coventry have got out of that league. It's possible. Let's just hope that they don't end up down there. Sorry, mate, carry on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think it's one of those where it would be surprising to see a team like Forest or Derby down there come the end of the season. But like we said a second ago, based on how Derby have started, I think it also wouldn't be that much of a shock if Derby were to get dragged into a relegation battle. Rotherham is a good shout. They've been a yo-yo club between League One and the Championship. I think if you speak to a lot of their fan base and the people involved with the club directly, they are quite happy being in League One. I'm sure a lot of Rotherham fans will probably disagree with this now, actually. But they're happy being in League One because they get results and they play well. Whereas when they go up to the Championship, they normally don't do too well. So they are kind of a team that bounce between those 2 leagues.
Yeah. Right. So last thing, let's just go through the fixtures, and I just want to hear your score predictions, mate. So Cov Birmingham.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a 2-1 for the Sky Blues for Cov City.
There you go, Sky Blues fans. You heard it here first. Charlie, 2-1 for Coventry. Bournemouth and Reading.
Bournemouth and Reading, I can see that being a pretty high scoring game. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 that game, just a bit of a goals fest, hopefully.
I like that. Preston, Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, I can see this being not being a dry affair because I don't really think many games are in the Championship, but I wouldn't be surprised if this sort of plays out as maybe like a 1-1. Yeah, so I think I'd go for a draw at 1-1 in that game.
I'm probably going to go Preston 2-0 for that one.
Okay, yeah.
QPR Watford.
Yeah, two decent teams. Again, it wouldn't surprise me because of the attacking prowess that both sides have got for this game to be a high-scoring one again. However, I do feel like at the back, especially with Ben Foster in goal, Watford have got the ability to shut anyone out at this level. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Watford.
2-0 Watford. I'm going to go 3-1. Stoke versus Huddersfield.
Yeah, that's sort of a bit of a mid-table clash. So it's a bit of a harder one to predict. There's not been anyone that sort of flopped at the start of the season, but also there's not been anyone that sort of pushed on, kicked on at the start of the season. I can probably see that being a draw. I don't think either team wants to lose that game. So I can't imagine them going all guns blazing. Again, could be obviously completely wrong. But I can see that probably being a 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I was going to agree with that one then, mate. I was going to say exactly the same 1-1. Barnsley, Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, so it's one of those. It's a bit of a bottom of the table sort of lower end clash. Again, it's a bit like I was saying for the last game. Neither team would particularly want to lose that game just from being. They don't want to be dragged further in to a relegation battle, and they don't want to be away from the pack. If you see what I mean. But to be honest, on paper, Forest have got a better side, so I'd go for a 1-0 Forest in that game.
I'm going to go for a 1-1.
Okay.
Middlesbrough versus Norwich City.
Yeah, again, it's another big game. Two big teams, I'd say there that will be up and around it come the end of the season. I think you've got to look at Norwich's Premier League players that they had playing in the top flight last season. There'll be a massive influence on the game. I think obviously Middlesbrough have got a decent side themselves, but I'd probably go for a 2-0 Norwich win come tomorrow.
I've gone for 3-2.
Oh yeah, bit of high scoring one there.
Bit of a goal fest, that one.
Yeah.
Millwall v Cardiff City. I think this one's got draw written all over it as well.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I think I could see that probably being a 1-1. I think both teams will be physical. Again, I go back to it. Both. I don't think it's a game that either side will want to lose. Obviously, no team wants to lose the game. Fully aware of that. But equally, I think that there won't be too bothered on attacking, right, all guns blazing, going forward right from the off. I think it would be more of like a sort of considered approach from both sides from the off. So yeah, I can see it being a draw, probably 1-1, I'd say.
Nice one. I've gone for a goalless draw. Something we've not seen much this season.
I don't know whether that's the lockdown effect. I think a lot of teams up and down the country at every level are playing with probably a lot more freedom is the word I'd use to describe how a lot more teams play. I don't know whether they feel less pressure, less intimidation away from home. If you take somewhere like, the King Power Stadium or Anfield, somewhere like that, where the atmosphere plays such a big part, when you've not got those fans there, it's not quite the same, is it? It's not quite as menacing.
No, exactly. I mean, I've been saying this. It's sort of like the Sunday League effect. You usually see 7 goals on a Sunday League game, not in a Premier League game. And, without the fans, I reckon that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Moving on, we've got Luton versus Blackburn.
So I'd probably go for a Luton win here, with it being based at Luton, and also Luton are on good form at the moment. So yeah,
I like their home record.
Yeah,
I'm going to go 2-0.
I'll probably say Luton 2-0.
I've got exactly the same written down, mate.
Yeah.
Bristol City versus Derby County.
Now then, see, you'd like to think that an England legend and basically a football legend, whatever your allegiance to, whatever club it is, you'd like to see Rooney do well at Derby, hit the ground running. But I think, like you were saying earlier, I can't see Derby County. I can't see the Rams getting through Bristol City unscathed. So I'm going to go for a 3-0 Bristol win there.
don't know if you can see this jotted down. Got it just there.
I can make it out now.
Bit blurry, but yeah, 3-0. Yeah. That's exactly what I've got for.
Yeah.
Swansea and Rotherham. Sorry, mate, carry on.
Swansea and Rotherham, I think. Swansea are a decent side. They've been in the Championship for a while. They've got that experience. Equally, Rotherham aren't a side that can be walked over. They're a very sort of old-fashioned, but in a good way. They're an organised team that plays solid football. They're normally quite defensively compact, although they're one of those sides that when they concede, the floodgates tend to open a little bit. But I'd say on balance, Swansea have probably got the quality over Rotherham. So I'd probably go for a 2-0 Swansea win there.
I've gone for a 2-1. And last of all, Wycombe versus Brentford. Now I've gone for a 3-1 win for Brentford.
Yeah, so Brentford, I think Brentford will concede. Just because they're not necessarily always the most consistent side of the back, but equally, even with losing some of their key players going forward, they've still got a decent amount of firepower and creativity as well going forward. So I think I'd agree with that. I think probably 3-1 to Brentford. I think going forward they'll have maybe a bit too much for Wycombe, who may or may not snatch a goal. But yeah, I think 3-1's a fair prediction, I'd say.
Brilliant. And last of all, Charlie, we've got a question here from Andrew, one of our admins. Yeah. Where do you think Cov will be in 5 years' time?
Oh, mate, 5 years' time. Well, I wouldn't
just before you start, right? Can I just say that our owners at Leicester City were asked, or they were given a goal of 5 years, and they wanted us to win the Premier League within 5 years. None of us believed it.
Yeah.
We did it.
That's right.
So I'll ask you again, mate. Where do you see yourself in 5 years, mate, as a Cov City fan?
Dominating Europe. What we're going to do is we're going to win the FA Cup this season. I think we're already out. We're going to win the FA Cup next season. Then we're going to win the Europa League. Then be in the Champions League and then win it first season. Boom.
Tell you what, mate. Get your bets on now, boys. Get your bets on now.
Realistically, I think as long as we stay in the Championship for maybe the next couple of seasons, build going into the third season and look to push up, I think probably in the next 4 years pushing for the Premier League. Ideally, 5 years we want to be looking to be in the Premier League, I think. But I'm just happy that we've got a team and we're in the Championship again. But yeah, ideally 5 years time be in the Premier League is my goal.
Brilliant. Right, guys, I've been Mr. Wheels and this is Charlie. If you want to go see Charlie on his channel, Sky Blues Fan TV. It's a new channel just been set up for Coventry City fans. So yeah, by all means, go and like their page. Thank you for joining us. Andrew has a comment. He's added, what about having your own stadium?
Well, that's a big thing. As I said, I don't want to be too political, but there is another stadium in the pipeline, but I don't want to speculate about that too much.
We'll cross our fingers and we won't speak too soon.
Yeah. So, yeah, obviously that's the name as well.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for joining me, Charlie. Guys, if join us over on Mitch's channel over in exactly a minute for Mitch's debate show to find out to talk about whether Gareth Southgate is it his time to go. Marcelo Bielsa has his bubble burst at Leeds, and we give you all the updates and all the information on the Liverpool versus Leicester fixture on Sunday afternoon. And last thing I need to say, by the way, guys, as well, you probably noticed when we started this that we didn't have an opening sequence. We're not going to have a closing sequence either because I don't know how to do it. No one's taught me the ropes yet. So I've been Danny. This has been Charlie. That way, I got it right. You take care of yourself. And tune in on Monday evening, I believe it's 6 p.m, to check the scores on Ryan's Roundup. Thank you, guys.
Lovely stuff, guys. See you later.